Highly successful individuals are always focused on what's next, but they often don't take time to reflect on their journey and how far they've come. I'm Craig Heatherly, host of the Path Less Travel podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary leaders. Their success rarely follows a straight path, and that's what makes their story so remarkable. Now let's dive into this week's episode after a brief message from our sponsors. Looking for top talent in tech or professional fields? Avero Talent connects businesses with exceptional candidates, specializing in tailored recruiting solutions that match the right skills to your team's needs. Whether you're building a team or searching for a tough-to-fill position, Avero Talent delivers the expertise you need to hire smarter, faster, and with confidence. Let Avero Talent help you find your next star employee.
At Cressy Leadership, we don't just train leaders, we transform business and change lives. Employees learn to communicate around difficult challenges. Leaders build skills that create a thriving culture. Companies become healthier and more successful. We're Erin Cressy, Mickey Hay, and Anna McEachran, your expert partners, trainers, and coaches. Join the organizations already thriving with Cressy Leadership.
Welcome to the Path Less Travel podcast. This week we feature Shaun, the president and integrator of C&S Machine. Shaun, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you having me on the show. Looking forward to this.
This is by far the coziest setting I've been in, so thank you for doing it here in this incredible 120,000 square foot facility. I know it's more than just a beautiful building. Tell us about C&S Machine.
Yes, so C&S Machine actually did not start in this beautiful world-class, 120,000 square foot building. It actually started a few miles down the road in Buchanan, Michigan, by a guy named Joe Sarator in 1966. And he really, he was in his mid-20s and just kind of rolled up his sleeves and went and started in his garage and doing machining for Bendix, Clark Equipment, Studebaker back in the day. And then as the business had kind of worked through the 70s and 80s and 90s. His son Dominic got involved in the business, kind of took it into aerospace, and that was about 30 some years ago. And it really just kind of evolved to being a place of opportunity. And so about a decade ago, the family had an idea to buy some land and try to grow it even bigger. And at that point in time, they were probably roughly a $10 to $15 million company, and about a 70-acre property. Built this building. We have another building on the corner that's a smaller building, and just put a path of growth in front of them and a vision to say, okay, how do we get from 15 million to 55 million in about a decade? And so I kind of entered the picture in 2020. When they were basically about at $20 million, with a dream to kind of get bigger. Had obviously this cool facility, comfy couches, and everything to kind of attract talent. And it was just, okay, how do we find the way to grow the business? And so C&S today is 150 employees, growing at about 20+% a year, and with opportunities to keep doing that. And mainly aerospace. Getting into some jet engine work. We're in the hydraulic pump component systems, and really you can find our products on every airplane that you can think of on the planet, commercial, military, and then some missile systems as well. So some great opportunity for us, and looking forward to sharing all that with you.
A big thank you to Senior One Care for sponsoring today's episode. Founded in 2006 by Carl and Kyle Bossing, this family-owned business has provided compassionate in-home care for nearly 2 decades. If my family needed a caregiver, I'd call Kyle. With 6 Indiana locations, they give you the peace of mind while your loved ones receive the care they deserve. Learn more at senioronecare.com. 10 to 55 million in the last decade or so. What's been the key to success for that growth? If you go on the website, you guys talk a lot about just the investment that you guys make in people, facilities, equipment.
Yeah, I think one thing that attracted me when I first met our CEO, Dominic, so he's second generation, and I think we've all heard the stories of second generation owners, and some are dedicated, some are not, some are maybe handed the keys to the kingdom. But he's really been the driving force behind, hey, I got this vision to get bigger. And so he sat down and kind of mapped out what is our core values, what is our core focus going to be. And that core focus was really I would say the launching pad of saying we're going to inspire people, we're going to build great teams that get extraordinary results. And CNS has always been a very disciplined, high accountability company. We make very tight tolerance, precision components, and you can't really do that well without kind of having that in your DNA. So that was always there. But really then Dominic just said, hey, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And not a lot of times you get business owners that want to do that. They say it, but they don't really do it. And so over the last 4 years, we've put in $30 million of CapEx. We have put leadership development programs in for our people, a mixture of inside, outside, just pouring into saying, hey, we're going to do this with building up people. We're going to go out and hopefully hire the best talent we can, but you can't always guarantee that. And we're going to teach folks what it is to make very tough parts. And so yes, this constant stream of investment, vertical integration in some of our processes has really put us on a different map with our customers. They're like, wow, these people are serious to grow. They're not just saying it, they're actually doing it. Even our own bank, my bank was like, wow, like you're doing it. And the last 3 years we've, coming out of COVID, we were only a $16 million company in 2020. Last year we closed at 36 million roughly, and we're heading into the 40s this year. And so yeah, we're doing it. It's not an easy road to travel. It requires immense communication to communicate the why constantly, because people generally, when you're growing organically at this pace, start questioning a lot of things, obviously. Like, Shaun, you're insane. Like, Dominic, you're insane. But no, it's about putting tools and resources around those people to say, no, we have things that we can use to succeed, and we will succeed.
So you've been on this path of growth, of reinvestment into the business. Gosh, so much is happening. What is next for the company? Like, what's on the horizon? Yeah,
I mean, Dominic, I look on and say, like, you almost like you're betting on yourself constantly. And, for next is just continue alignment to 2 or 3 core customers. And then looking at, I have this concept that I love to do more with less. And I think my staff laughs at me at times. Is like, what do you mean by more with less, Shaun? Like, you're just going to squeeze me? No, I'm going to push. And I'm going to push us to be our very best. When I say that, I think of guys like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and Tiger Woods, of just having some talent, but then saying, you know what, I'm going to double down on that talent. I'm going to work extremely hard. I'm going to come in every day with intentionality. And so we like to say what's next is more growth. And really through a concept of aligning to our customer, building manufacturing cells to do that. And that really creates a team then, like little sub-teams. And I think it's Google maybe, or with Jeff Bezos, he said, like, keep it to a size of a pizza party. And, out there on our production floor, we've learned that when you build a team around that, when maybe it's 5 people, 10 or 20 or 30, you get them intimate, believing in what they're doing, amazing things start happening. And you start making very difficult parts, making them routine, making your customer going, wow, I can't believe you do this consistently. And so what's next is just continually plodding through, being very disciplined on the parts that we take, the part families that we take, and then building a manufacturing cell with a team around it that's going to go out there and create extraordinary results.
The push to be the best. Can you elaborate on that? Like, where does that come from when we look at it just through your lens, through leadership? I mean, is it something that you saw growing up, modeled for you? Is it something that you just adopted yourself? Was this something that you learned from somebody? Where does this push to be the best come from?
Yeah, I do think it's kind of in your DNA at some level. I was the youngest child in my family, and my brother was 6 years older than me. My sister was 4. I was one of those, parents had me in their late 30s, like, oh, we're pregnant again, and but always just kind of like, I don't know. When I grew up, I was very competitive. Played a lot of sports, and baseball, basketball, soccer. And I just had this, I think, in me to say I want to be the best. I want to go to practice. I want to get to the game. And I remember in high school even saying, man, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. I really want to go compete. And so that drive kind of continued with me, I think, throughout my life. And I watched my parents struggle growing up financially. Filed bankruptcy a few times, and I'm like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to do that to my family. I'm going to outwork that problem. And so I got right into public accounting, which was an industry that loved to outwork you. And definitely in the early 2000s, spent some hours in the walls of that CPA firm. And but really that's kind of been the foundation of my career is, hey, you gotta work hard and you gotta earn that every single day,
So we're shooting this at 8:30 in the morning. I think both of us would agree. We could have gone earlier. We're both morning people.
Yeah.
How does all that, what you just mentioned right there, how does that show up in your life, in your day-to-day? What are the habits? What are the things that you do to squeeze as much as you can out of yourself? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, the day for me, again, starts at 5 a.m., Monday through Friday. Saturday's typically about 6:30 or 7 a.m. And it starts with a quick energy drink to kind of pre-workout drink. I get into some devotions, into the Bible a little bit, and so to me it's about a structure and a discipline, and it's a daily discipline. And if you get off that daily discipline, you're just not in your right routine. And so I am a workout junkie. I do like staying in shape, eating healthy. But really that routine every day, that discipline is driving me in my mind to say, okay, I'm going to put in the effort and I'm going to do it consistently, and you're going to get the outcome that you desire. And you may have to be patient for that outcome. It doesn't come obviously right away, like working out. It doesn't come right away. It takes other things. It takes good eating habits too to gain all that reward. And so working out 5:30 to about 6:30, hop in the shower. I'm a protein drink guy every morning, and then get into work between 7 and 7:15, and kind of go all the way to about 5:45. And I want to come in and be like go, and high energy. I want my team to know that I'm engaged every day, because the ask is you are going to do more with less. We're going to grow this business pretty lean, and if I'm not functioning in that way in my personal life and in business, then it's kind of like hypocrisy creeps in. It's like, well, you're really not that. You just say you are. And so, no, I think the energy that it takes to run a growing, organically grown business is immense if you're going to do it right. And yes, I think God's given me this type A personality, and I want to, I'm using that as best as my ability.
So your title here is President and Integrator, President/Integrator, Integrator. Can you elaborate on just what that means?
Yeah, I think a lot of people read my business card and they're like, Interrogator. And I'm like, no, it's Integrator. And maybe it's some of the people that have worked for me believe that it's Interrogator, because I am a guy that I love transparency, honesty. I want to be told that I suck when I suck. And, so that's how I run this business. And so Integrator actually is part of Traction Tools. We used to be on that EOS system. We are no longer, but we've kept those titles because I am trying to pull together, integrate all the teams to the single concepts of growing and growing at a very fast pace. and doing it as profitably as we possibly can. And so, that integration is me understanding, and diving into all facets of our business, whether it's manufacturing, sales, our finance team, marketing, even maintenance, and saying, okay, how do these things kind of integrate and piece together to make the formula work? And it's a constant, changing. It's constant evolution. It's constant looking at things and going, hey, we need to be A+ in every category if we're going to be world class, and we're not there. So what are we going to do? And it involves being kind of real and raw with each other in the moment. I like to call them awkward conversations, and we have plenty of them around the walls of CNS Machine now. But that's where, to me, like, real growth is happening when we look in the mirror and say, hey, we say we're that, but are we really that? Are we really, like, gonna actually change instead of maybe pencil whipping that report? Let's stop doing that. Oh, it's gonna be so much pain, Shaun. But no, like, that's what we need to go through, right? That's the journey. And so at the end of the day, to me, CNS, you asked a couple minutes ago, like, what does that path look like? It's development of our people to handle more, be more, execute more. And the opportunities will keep coming, if you're performing. And if you're performing, your customer is going to keep showing up because they want you. And really, right now in the machining world, there's this amazing opportunity because there is a lot of mom and pops that aren't making it. There is a lot of folks that say, I don't want to grow. So it's given CNS amazing opportunities to grow. And I look at it in my little integrator role in the company and saying, like, don't screw this one up, Shaun. Let's take advantage of it. Let's seize the opportunity.
So I think you've got a unique perspective on what you just said, awkward conversations.
Yeah.
I also like awkward. I find value in leaning into the awkwardness of life, whether it be interactions or conversations. I think the more you lean into it, the better you are on the other side. So how do you approach awkward situations, awkward conversations, difficult situations?
Yeah, I think this is something you got to learn and develop, obviously. But if you're really going to be kind of a person that can change and grow your business, if you can't have those, and if you can't have those at the right time, you don't move forward. And you tend to hold on and dwell on people that may don't belong in the business anymore, or they're cancer, or they're not changing, and you're accepting it, and you're tolerating that. And I do think leadership is like, what do you tolerate? And when you don't have those conversations, you're tolerating a lot more than what you really want to deep down inside. And so, yes, I think these have come in all forms, but to me, you can't have them unless you're building trust and having healthy relationships. And so I really got some great advice from a guy named Mike Hoover that was the owner of KIB Electronics, and I had kind of started my manufacturing career with him. And he's like, hey, get out on the floor and just get to know your people. And I did that from day one with him. I was out on the floor every day, memorizing names, saying hi to folks, and showing them that, hey, I'm a real human being. I've got a role in the business, different than your role, but we all have roles. And so with those relationships comes gives you the platform to say, okay, we can have an awkward conversation, because they know you. It's coming from sincerity. It's coming from truth. And generally, most people are like, thank you. That needed to happen. Now, no one wants to go through it. And I even joke with my own boss at times and say, hey, we're about to have an awkward conversation, because maybe him and I are not aligned. And to me, the number one thing that has to happen every day is like that alignment. So my goal as kind of that second in command is to take the vision, be the first believer in that vision, and then go execute that vision, right? And to do that, I have to be aligned. And then to be aligned, you have to have awkward conversations with your team, with yourself, with your boss above you. So up and down the chain of command, it's got to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you're wasting time, because you're just delaying the inevitable. So just rip the Band-Aid off and let's get it over with. And now you gotta be professional. You can't be a jerk about it. And sometimes, leaders, including myself, you get that wrong, and you're like, ah, crap, I got to go back and apologize for that one, And I think it also helps that, God made me with not a lot of emotions, and I'm not the most emotional person, and I'm constantly working on, compassion in my life for others, and but that definitely helps my awkward conversations because I don't cry.
I'm going to send this part of the interview to my wife. She's going to be really happy knowing that there are more people in this world that have very low amounts of emotions and don't cry, although, honey, I'm working on it. I'm working on compassion. I want to start to shift the focus a little bit into digging into your leadership style. Mm-hmm. You've got a unique leadership style, one that obviously has produced some strong results here at C&S Machining, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think for myself, this goes way back to maybe my mid-30s. I got the opportunity to be the president of KIB Electronics, and the first six months, it was like went right to my head, and it was like an ego trip. And I remember my wife saying, "You've changed." I'm like, no, honey, I'm the same person, driven, on top of the world. And she's like, "No, like it's your ego. It's not about you." It's about what are you doing with what you've got. And so it was a humbling, humble, put me right back down where
She's a truth teller.
Yeah, where I belonged. And but then that started this journey for me to be like, okay, how am I going to go? I want to create more leaders. And at the time we were, Elkhart, supply chain, RV. You can imagine it's that grind, and you're really fighting for pennies almost in that industry at times. And it really comes down to, pushing people to grow and develop. And I had a supervisor on the floor that was not treating her people well. And it was kind of like a moment of truth, like, how am I going to deal with this as a leader? And so I actually at the time was reading a book called Extreme Ownership. We'll talk about it maybe a little bit later. And I gave that book to that supervisor. I said, "You're going to go home for 2 weeks. I'm not going to pay you. You're going to read this book. And you're going to come back, and we're going to see if you have a job." And she had 30-some years in that KIB at that time, probably our best supervisor. And really, I think that started my style of kind of this transformational leadership style, but then also kind of I'm a big believer in servant leadership. And kind of that two combination to me has worked. And what I mean by transformational is I am wanting to push people. I want to collaborate. I want at the end of the day that, this leader made that leader, and then I have 10 more leaders. And that's winning to me. And if we're doing that well, when I get to the end of my career, I'm going to go, that was an awesome ride. And then at the same time, though, transformational leadership style pushes you to gain emotional intelligence. And that's a big buzzword today, I get it. But it can't be any further from the truth is when there's a lack of emotional intelligence, all those other things, awkward conversations, they can't exist. People lose it, right? They start screaming, they start yelling. And I'm not a screamer or yeller. I definitely can get intense. I've been told I'm intense. I look in the mirror and say, like, am I intense? But I've been told I am. So I do believe I am at some level. But that collaborative spirit is what, I love to go drive into our business. So I am a pusher. Like, hey, we need to change maybe. We need to not accept what we did today and say that's going to win the day forever. And then servant leadership. I think my own faith and walk and how I live my life, if I need to go pick up the broom, I go pick up the broom. There's no job that any one of us shouldn't be able to go be willing to do if you're a leader, right? And sometimes that's awkward because it almost, if you do it in the wrong context, your employees say, well, don't come out here. That's kind of embarrassing to me. That's not your job. But I don't do it from that context. It's about, okay, as a team, we want to win. And what does it take to win? And sometimes, the thing that needs to be done is that machine needs to be cleaned. And so go get a mop and a bucket and start cleaning, and hopefully, that combination of how do we treat people? Because when you do push, your expectations are a lot. Right. And the expectations I put on folks at times can be overbearing. And they're like, well, I don't know how we're going to do that. And it's, no, we're going to do that together. We're going to get in a room and we're going to communicate that you're struggling. and it's okay. So what resources do we have to put around you so you can be successful? So I like to say, like, I'm going to put everything I got into you, and then if it doesn't work out, it's the easiest separation known to man. Because I've done everything and you've done everything, and it's okay. And sometimes it's not that either that role it's come to an end, right, or it's time to move on or out, or you're going to be maybe prepped for another opportunity in life.
Well, you mentioned the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko. It's a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Every leader should read it. But what books do you recommend to leaders, or peers have recommended them to you, or that you just love? I looked in your office last time I was here, and you've got loads of books. So what would you recommend to a leader?
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, I was not a book guy up until about until I became the president. My wife humbled me. And I'm like, you know what, I got to go invest in myself. I got to go develop myself before I can develop others. And so obviously, I spend every day in the Bible, and that the Bible has immense leadership stories in it, and from all facets of life. So I think there's stories of Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem and just trying to get people to believe that they can go do this. And there was opposition. There was people, they even had to fight, like people fighting them while they were building the wall. So they had to have teams over there trying to protect as they build at the same time. So I just love that analogy of that. And so I highly recommend anyone to dive into that book. But from a secular book world, obviously Extreme Ownership to me has probably been the most impactful book, because there's just a lot of just real life practicality in it, of just, they're in war, and they're Navy SEALs, which is cool in itself from a standpoint of just the commitment level that these guys had. But they took that and said, like, okay, how are we getting better? And one of the core values of CNS is get better every day. And we try to live that here. And to do that Extreme Ownership book is something we make every leader around here read. And I read it actually once a year myself. Now, I don't read books, I audio listen, because if I had to read them, I'd probably be like half asleep through most books. My brain loves to listen to things and just keep going. And but that book, if you have not read that book and you're a leader, like, that is probably one of the top books I would recommend, because it's an easy read, very easy to understand the concepts, gives a great kind of story, then a business application and a principle. And it's just, okay, I can apply that to pretty much any setting in my business. And then another one, I'm a big John Maxwell fan, The Leader's Greatest Return. And it's really about, equipping leaders, finding leaders, developing leaders, and making more leaders. And, I think there's a lot of his books that are like textbooks. You're like, oh man, it's almost like a theology book. You're like, I can't get through this. But that book, if you're a leader that wants to make leaders happen and build leaders, like, that book's a go-to, in my opinion.
So you're obviously an achiever. I mean, you've got this drive to succeed, and I've got that need to achieve in myself. And there's a lot of things that you achieve, and it's like you check the box and you're on to the next achievement. When you look back at just your life, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, really, man, you're just sticking with the good ones, right? I think it's it's staying consistent, and it's a journey to me. And it's not about like, oh, I've got to this pinnacle and I'm going to stop. I don't know if I'm going to ever stop, actually. My staff jokes with me and says there will never be a retirement age for Shaun Fye. Because I want to be doing something. I want to be creating value. And yes, God's blessed me immensely. I have 7 kids, and so life is full and life is busy. And I believe that, as I look back now, and I'm only a few years away from being 50, and I think what I'm most proud of is that, coming in and showing up every day. And I have more energy today than when I started my first day at CNS. And I was pretty jacked that day because of, you've been in our building. It's a pretty cool environment. You're like, wow, I can be a part of this. I can make a difference. But really, at the end of the day, I hope people, and myself, I look back and go, okay, I kept fighting. I kept fighting the fight. I kept grinding. And the reward is more people are going to be left in a better place. They're going to be developed. They're going to have opportunities to develop themselves. They're going to become leaders. And when I hang it up at CNS, I hope we're well into 100 plus leaders, because that means we've hit our goals. We're going to achieve all the financial success that we probably wanted to achieve. But at the end of the day, those 100 people have probably impacted thousands of people, which is pretty, to me, that's the bride I want in the end.
Well, I think a lot of people are a couple of steps away from a breakthrough in life, and for one reason or another, they quit. You clearly are not one that quits.
Yeah.
Why is that? What actually? There's a lot of drive in you.
Yeah.
What's the why?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obviously your family, your faith, I think your upbringing, the people around you. I mean, a lot of it is you got to surround yourself with people that are like-minded. And if you're not doing that, it's easy to quit. I mean, if you're going at it by yourself, easy to quit. I mean, my wife is a workout junkie. Easy to quit if she's not a workout junkie. When she's outworking me, that's competition, right? It's like, okay, Shaun, step it up. I mean, she started going through this program about a year ago, and hey, I want to get more fit. I want to be in the best shape of my life. She started eating healthier. She started tracking every meal. So, last December, I'm like, no, I'm doing this for a year. I can do this for a year. So that iron sharpens iron concept. So if you're going to put yourself around people that have that same drive and that same dedication, you're going to do that. Because I do think human nature is to run away from hard, right? We want the easy life. We want to be on a beach. We want to whatever. But when you're around like-minded people that are pushing and engaging, you get better and you push yourself to be better. So I don't want to say it's all on me. I do think you got to have it in your DNA at some level to be like, you know what, deep down in my core of my soul, I'm not giving up. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to fight to the end. And then I'm going to get up and put a smile on my face. And I think Jocko said best, he's like, they would go in these crazy situations and he'd just be like, good. Put a smile on your face, good. I'm glad I get to go through that, And because it's about learning. It's about learning. It's about going through that trial or that tribulation and learning through it to get better. And that's kind of how the human body that's how life is, right? And how the human body reacts to those things.
Yeah, just the stress that you put on your body, just through working out, right? Just the improvement that you have, but you're talking about choosing hard.
Yeah.
Each and every day, each and every moment, and the growth that occurs from that. It's exponential if you just if you lean into it.
Yes.
You'll see great results on the back end. My last question for you, before I get your final thoughts, what advice would you give to a younger Shaun, 18 years old, starting off a career, somebody coming into leadership for the first time? What advice would you give someone?
Yeah, I probably keep your mouth shut a little longer. And no, I had to get a joke in there. But when you're younger, you think you can run through walls, right? You just have this maybe invincibility. I wish I would have dove into reading and listening to books faster, and starting to develop myself from a leadership standpoint. Because I didn't start that until my mid-30s and all that. Now, I always wanted to be the next promotion. I always wanted to be a leader. But until I kind of said, no, I want to be an influencer to other people. I want to develop other people. That earlier me was about me. Right? And I think a lot of us fall into that trap. It was more about me. Now, the mistakes I've made, I think John Wooden said once, I don't want to go back and erase my mistakes because it made me the man I was today. So I do think all those long tax season hours and all those things, I don't regret those things because it made me into the character I am today. It allows me to have that grit and grind. And I think if I didn't do those things back in those days, then I'm not Shaun Fye today. I'm not this guy that wakes up at 5 a.m. and says, let's go attack the day again, and then do it again tomorrow. And it doesn't matter where I'm at. I could be on a business trip. I'm getting up, and I'm if I'm in bed at 1 a.m, noon, whatever, I'm getting up the next morning, and I'm going to go through the routine. I may have to, you have to pay the piper maybe for that, right? But I'm going to do that. So, but I would tell myself, hey, dive into developing yourself, because you're going to impact people faster, in life.
Well, I don't know if you want to call it a pivot or just a shift. I had a very similar shift in my life where somebody told me the truth that your wife gave you, and it's, Craig, it's not about you. And until somebody hit me with that truth, it was about me.
Yeah.
I was on this trajectory of all about Craig. And once my mindset shifted and I started focusing on my marriage, my family, building people up around me, did I start to find more true joy in life. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. As we wrap up here, what final thoughts do you have about CNS Machine or leadership in general, or advice to people? Anything, the floor is yours as we wrap things up.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the time, and anytime you get to sit down and talk through these things, it's kind of you're selling it back to yourself again, right? So it's a humbling experience. But CNS, again, like I say, it's this land of opportunity, and as we've grown, it's definitely got more challenging than I ever could imagine. I actually thought we were gonna just keep plodding along, right? And I found myself challenging not only myself and my leaders to say, we're all might not make it to the top, and that shocks some people, right? Like, no, I've been here 20, 30 years, or I've worked 50, 60, 70 hours a week for you, Shaun. And there's a moment in time where it might not make sense, right? And because it all has to kind of work together. And if it doesn't, then it starts kind of maybe unraveling. So, CNS, again, I look forward to the journey that we're on. We're in the middle of this vertical integration, which is kind of like outside processes like heat treat, things that we normally never did. So there's a lot of learning going on. There's a lot of need for people to develop themselves. So to me, it's like every day, if you're kind of stale, you're falling asleep at the wheel, because there's plenty of things to come in here and grind on and get better at. And so that concept, to me, if you truly have a mindset like, I'm going to get better every day as a leader, that in itself should give you some energy, right, to wake up and start doing something about it. But again, I encourage people as they, again, trying to maybe find their break in life. It doesn't usually come instantaneously. You look at successful companies that took decades to become what they are today, Starbucks and all these other things that we think of, like, we just know them today, right? Mm-hmm. And so I hope the next 10 years, as we see CNS continue to get bigger, and we build out this campus, and we bring more team members on, and automation and cool equipment, that we don't forget really that core, and that's inspiring people, that's building great teams, and in return you're going to get extraordinary results. And I think the results over time kind of change. Sometimes your results are KPIs, sometimes those KPIs are just money. But I think as you get bigger and those challenges come, you realize, like, the reward is that you're seeing transformation happen. You're like, wow, that person's now handling a team of 20, and they could barely handle themselves 5 years ago. So again, appreciate the time. If anyone ever has a question on leadership, I love chatting about it. So reach out and let's not grab coffee, because I'm not a coffee guy, as you know, Craig, but maybe some water.
There you go. We'll grab some water.
But thanks.
Shaun, thank you for doing this. Really enjoyed our conversation. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Path Less Travel podcast. Until next week, have a great day.